Hello and welcome to the Gaggle, but we challenge and if necessary destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, we had a very interesting event that took place earlier this week at the World Court in The Hague. Nicaragua, very small country, has taken to task Germany, which is a very big country and a very significant country, and it's essentially filed a lawsuit against Germany, claiming that Germany is complicit in Israel's genocide. Now, Nicaragua has a pretty good record at the World Court because, of course, it famously took the United States to task in 1984 and prevailed, which was an extraordinary thing. It was a shocking event, but the World Court found that the United States was waging an illegal war against Nicaragua. So obviously Nicaragua came in with certain credentials. The question of whether it's made much of a case is a different one. So just want to show you a couple of points that Nicaragua made at The Hague. And here we have that. Oh, that is not the right one. This is it. Okay. So here, Nicaragua claims that Germany emphasizes that its assistance to Israel is a raison d'etat because of the historical treatment of the Jewish people during the Nazi regime. This is, of course, what Germany has been claiming. And that is an understandable and laudable policy if it were addressed to the Jewish people. The Israeli state, and particularly its present government, should not be confused and equated with the Jewish people, which is, again, a very reasonable point. And then the real friends of the Jewish people should emphasize the difference. The Jewish victims in concentration camps during the Second World War would feel sympathy and empathize with the more than 30,000 civilians, including 25,000 mothers and children massacred so far in Palestine, and the 20,000 children orphaned. And then goes on, with all due respect to this moral imperative of Germany that identifies the defense of Israel as a raison d'etat, there is another less noble reality that perhaps is not known by the generality of the German people. There is also a lucrative quid pro quo involved. German companies involved in the military industry are directly profiting from the situation, as they have seen their share prices rise since 7th of October, and they have substantially increased the joint development contracts for weapons with their Israeli counterparts. And then proudly and openly on the 23rd of November, 2023, the Israeli Ministry of Defense announced that they had officially concluded an agreement to sell Arrow 3 air defense systems to Germany for an estimated 3.6 billion. And then, they quote the Israeli defense minister. And then it goes on, from the public statements made by Germany, we could note two alleged justifications for their continued support of Israel: that Israel is not violating the Genocide Convention and that it has a right to defend itself. With respect to the first point, we already pointed out the full knowledge Germany had and has of what is happening in Palestine, the legal consequences of this knowledge, not only of the plausible violations of the Genocide Convention, but also of the norms of international humanitarian law. This is not a question that can be or need be addressed during these pleadings that are inevitably short, since they are addressed basically to the issues involved in the request for provisional measures. And then it goes on, with respect to the second point, the right of self-defense of Israel, which is also invoked by Germany for its continued assistance. Some brief comments. The question of the rights of Israel to defend itself is correct if it refers to the right to protect its people and not the right of self-defense contemplated in Article 51.
That's a very interesting point.
Right, exactly. But in the exercise of the right to protect its citizens, Israel, as occupying power, has assumed the duty to, and I quote the regulation concerning the laws and customs of war, to take all measures in its power to restore and ensure as far as possible public order and safety while respecting, unless absolutely prevented, the laws in force in the country. In practice, this implies that the police or general security powers the occupant has are similar to those of the state occupied. The right of protection is a right that frequently has to be exercised by states, even in difficult circumstances. But even in the most blatant situation of violence, the state has to respect the peremptory norms of international law. And furthermore, Germany cannot invoke that Israel is in some state of necessity of its assistance for its defense and survival. In spite of its size and population, Israel is in the top 10% of the most militarily powerful countries in the world. Its per capita expense is more than 4 times larger than that of Germany. It is even higher than that of the United States. Its total yearly military expenditures is higher than that of its neighbors, Iran and Egypt. Is higher than that of Iran and Egypt that have a population of more than 10 times larger and immense territories in comparison with Israel. So you're getting the sense of what it's really doing here, that they're saying that Germany, through providing this quite extensive military assistance, or this weaponry, though Israel is clearly not, at death's door. It's not in any immediate threat to its existence. Germany is essentially aiding and abetting, obviously, terrible atrocities. And, we have the provisional ruling from the International Court of Justice from a few months ago, in which they said there is a plausible case to be made that there may be genocide taking place in Gaza. So that's the Nicaragua case. We can, it's questionable whether it's a particularly strong one, and it's very interesting why they've chosen to go after Germany rather than the United States. So, why that? Other than, of course, we're all stunned because Germany, I think, is most famous for
Yes.
perpetuating a genocide against the Jews. And now suddenly there they are.
Well, that's the whole point, George.
Exactly.
That's the whole point. When again, I'm obviously not a lawyer here, but the fact that Nicaragua, which has an axe to grind with the West, okay,
Yeah.
obviously, and as George pointed out, that it did win a case against the United States. So I think that they were trying to make a point, and a point obviously is a country that has widely been condemned to this day for committing a genocide against Europe's Jews have put themselves into the position of aiding and abetting another genocide. And that it's the juxtaposition, obviously, that is the point here, okay? And I think, again, not knowing the legal intricacies of all of this, I see the point that they're making. I'm not sure it would pass muster. This is what a lot of legal scholars have said. They said,
Right.
well, they've got a point, but, okay, that's not the same case when it comes to Israel, okay? Because we have mountains and mountains of evidence here. Arms sales, again, they kind of let the cat out of the bag in a way. I mean, Germany has been doing this since the inception of the Israeli state.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. It's a very interesting issue, though, because the way that for instance, the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia operated, they wanted to have an all-encompassing notion of guilt. And so somebody was providing military assistance to somebody else was suddenly culpable for the criminal acts of somebody else. Now, I think it's a ridiculous idea. I mean, certainly in criminal law, you're basically culpable for what you've done yourself. You could provide military assistance, but ultimately it's the person doing whatever he's doing with the weapons that is responsible for the acts, not the person who's actually selling the weapons. But nonetheless, that's the way that the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, and therefore that's the way the International Criminal Court operates. So you can see how Nicaragua wants to make this case against Germany, and I agree with you. I think that's it's not a very
Well, I
compelling
mean,
case.
look, I mean, if we can compare the case against Israel that the court is reviewing, and then this new case against Germany, I mean, it's we could spend 3 or 4 minutes and be more than enough information to show the intentionality of the Israeli leadership on what we would, under international law, define as a genocide. No food, no water, no energy, okay, et cetera, et cetera. We don't see that with Germany. Germany is sending weapons so they can turn Gaza into a parking lot. We don't have that kind of rhetoric. We don't have that whatsoever. What the Israelis are playing upon is the very real guilt that Germany to this day carries with it. Okay,
Right.
George said it. I've never heard anyone ever say it before, but you're absolutely right. This is what Germany's most famous for, most well known
Right.
for.
Right. That's exactly right. And that's why by presenting it in this way, then obviously it's it embarrasses Germany. But I think your point is really the most important one, which was that when it comes to genocide, what matters is intentionality.
Yep.
And therefore, you have the acts, and then you have the intentionality. So because it's supposed to be the crime of all crimes, the worst crime imaginable, you have to have a very high standard of evidence to prove that genocide is taking place. And that high standard of evidence is the intentionality. You have to actually show that this person intended genocide. Now, in the case of Germany, really, you can't show that. I mean, you could say Germany maybe is being disingenuous when he's sending these arms. But even making this claim about, well, they're making a lot of money, then you say, yeah, well, that you're providing your own justification, saying,
Exactly.
yeah, they're making a lot of money. That's why they're selling all this arms. This is what Germans do. Germans have a very good manufacturing industry. So it's hard to establish that any kind of an intentionality. Just by saying, oh, well, they read the newspapers or they read the various reports, that still doesn't establish intentionality, because they make us say, well, yeah, but we read other reports as well. It's by no means conclusive as to what's going on. So it's hard to establish any intentionality.
Well, the point is, for me, I'm not against the case being brought against Germany by Nicaragua, because what I think at the end of the day, it is the shame the Germans it's demanding them to rethink their position as this genocide is being played out in Gaza. I mean, the point is, folks, of all countries that should know what this means, it's Germany, and Germany should step back and using its historical record and saying, look, we've seen something like this before. We did it. This looks very, very similar. We're going to stand back. Okay. We will let the International Court of Justice take it from here. That would be a position. But of course, that's not a money-making position, because the Americans will pick up the slack. The French will pick up the slack. The Italians will pick up the slack. So.
Right. No, I mean, and that's why if when you look at this, all of the evidence that Nicaragua is presenting is really presenting in terms of, well, they're making a lot of money on this. So say, well, the German Minister of Defense confirmed that Germany had allowed Israel's air forces to use 2 Heron military drones for Israel's defense battle. The widespread and indiscriminate destruction caused by unmanned aerial vehicle like these drones to civilians, blah, blah, has been widely reported. But again, yeah, it has been reported that there's widespread civilian destruction. That still doesn't get you to genocide. And that's really the problem, that atrocities, even the worst atrocities, even atrocities to civilians, doesn't get you to genocide. You have to have that, the intentionality that you intended to destroy this people, this population. And I think that's where this case is weak, it's fascinating in terms of public relations,
Exactly.
and
That's
everybody's reporting it because it's so
that's
it's so
it.
amazing that Germany is being taken to the world court for its excessive support for Israel. But I don't think it's a especially compelling case.
I don't think not at all. And maybe that's the genesis of this whole exercise is to point out that the levels of culpability under international law. And it, should Germany be shamed? Yeah, it should be. Okay. But being shamed isn't illegal.
No, it's not. It's not illegal, and of course, everybody else is doing it. I mean, the British are
Yeah,
doing
of
it,
course.
The French are
I mean,
doing
the,
it.
the interesting thing is, George, is that if Germany were to stop its munitions being sent to Israel, yeah, Israel, I'm not a military man, but probably would feel it. But if the Americans turned it off, then it would be the end of the war.
Well, that would definitely be it because again, because the American support is critical, not just by in terms of the military hardware, but in terms of intelligence, and of course, most important of all, diplomatic support. I mean, it's the United States that's continually providing the diplomatic support, the diplomatic cover for Israel, and that's why it's the Americans have that clout over Israel that Germany doesn't. I mean, as you say, Germany stops, Britain and France, they take up the slack. No problem at all. It would, but America, that's a different case. So anyway, that's I think it's just a very interesting development, and it's a little bit of an embarrassment. Germany has to send its lawyers to The Hague to defend themselves.
Well, what was interesting, George, is I saw the press approach after was it, I'm not sure if it was before or after they made their defense or their case, but they didn't want to answer any questions in front
Right.
of the media, which I thought, no, you're going to be Germans going to be being asked questions, and answers will be demanded for a long time.
Right.
Okay, that's the
Yes.
gravity of the situation. And the more we talk about the plausibility of genocide, the better. We should talk about these things. George is right. This is the crime of crimes, the most heinous crime. And so you want to be tight-lipped about it? Don't be. Make your case, all right? I thought that was just shameful.
Right. Right, but that policy is not going to change. I mean,
No.
Germans, they're so this has been such a defining
Yep.
issue for post 1945 Germany.
Yep.
Their implacable, irrevocable support for Israel. That's that's not going to change. And they've given given a lot of money to Israel over the years, much to the chagrin of the Palestinians because they didn't do anything to the Jews. But Germany didn't give anything to anyone else. I mean, Germany never offered compensation,
Well, they did it with
restitution. No, just
certain
individuals, only
right
individuals. So
individuals.
But that's the
Individuals.
point. To any state, no
No.
state received any kind of restitution. So I mean, East Germany and Poland signed an agreement, waiving all claims in 1953, I think, and West Germany, United Germany says, yeah, that's it. All claims are gone. Amazing, amazing. The German Democratic Republic can just simply sign away.
Well, I
Now,
mean,
now you recognize the sovereignty of the German Democratic Republic to speak for behalf of all of Germany.
because the genocide conventions came about after the Second World War, the Soviet Union and the successor state of Russia, they got a pretty good case for genocide from 1941 to 1945. Okay,
Right.
but they've got no restitution.
No, no,
I think it was Helmut Kohl. I may be wrong here, but he asked at one point, could Germany go and build cemeteries and tombstones for the Wehrmacht soldiers that died? And the response was, sure, but you have to make tombstones for all of our guys too.
Right.
It didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's no, I think it is very interesting that the way that Israel got this this hefty compensation from Germany, but all other countries that were subjected to German aggression, you know, they didn't get anything. And the idea behind it was that, well, we don't want to do what, you know, make the mistake that we did after World War One and burden Germany with a massive reparations program that ultimately just destroyed the German economy, and then we had inflation and Hitler. So we're not going to do that. Essentially, we're going to waive all reparations requests. Well, okay, then Germany comes along. Oh, Wirtschaftswunder, you know, what fantastic, you know, German economy, you know, doing so great. By 1970, you know, Germany was already an economic powerhouse. Yeah, well, that's great, since you never had to pay, you know, compensation for all the damage you caused.
And if you look at circa 1970, what was the economic situation for almost all of Eastern Europe?
Yeah, exactly.
Very slow.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
when I went there in Poland in 1980, there's still remnants of the Second World War. They
Yeah.
were still, after all. Interesting that with Germany and Israel, Berlin is one of the favorite cities for dual citizens, Israeli Germans. Okay, if you go to Berlin, a very, very lively and exciting Jewish / Israeli, I don't know how to describe it, community and cafes and restaurants
Yeah.
and all that. And of course, Netanyahu, since he's been around forever, he criticized, Israelis moving to Berlin. I think he cited German chocolate ice cream because it's like so outrageously expensive in
Yeah.
Israel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No.
then
No.
you
No.
go to Berlin and you can get the same ice cream for, I don't know what, 10% of the price, But much to the chagrin of a lot of Israeli leaders is that the young people, where do you want to go? They're so, I want to go to Berlin.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of weird,
No, it is good, but that's again, you know, I think Germany just embraced kind of philo-Semitism. You know,
That's
they
right.
went out of their way to love the Jews, and so yeah, that's
But
much
they
like it.
didn't love them so much to give. Why didn't they just give them like Saxony?
No, no, no,
Because that's what a lot.
that cannot happen. No,
But see, this is what Palestinians will say: is that okay? You committed a genocide against the Jews, and you want to give them land. Why don't you give them your land? Why do you give them our land, which you had no right to give them in the first place?
right? Yeah, 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 yeah. No, that's true enough. Mind you, I mean the Zionist project was conceived that it would be on Palestine, the historic land of the Jews, historic going back 2,000 years. But then Balfour made that his declaration and made that promise. So already it was decided that this was where it would take place. But of course, Germany was actually very pro-Zionist. So
Yeah.
certainly it was among the states. It was actually
Well, I mean, it
was
wasn't for
pro-Zionist
altruistic
before World
reasons.
War One.
It
Yeah.
wasn't for altruistic reasons.
Well, before World War One, it was more for altruistic. I mean, it was the Kaiser was very pro Zionist before World War One. Then later on, I guess with Hitler, it was a little different. But it was. I mean, it was touch and go as to whether it would be the British or the Germans who
Well,
would
I don't
win
know if
over the
I would call
Jews.
it altruistic. They wanted to get rid of Jews. Okay, so
Well, I don't think that was entirely the Kaiser's view because those people were not anti-Semitic. They thought the Jews. I mean, I'm not saying that they liked the Jews, but the Jews were wealthy and powerful
and
and
extremely well integrated into
well
German
integrated. But
in
that
in modernizing German
it,
society.
it,
Oh yeah,
it,
very
it,
much so.
but
Yeah,
also had money. They were industrialists.
yeah.
These were powerful industrialists who were Jews. And Bismarck really liked them because I mean, like there was a book written, I think it was a Fritz Stern or something, Bismarck, Bleichroder, and the industrialization of Germany. I mean, they played a key role in all of that.
I think I got it behind me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was a big, thick book. One of these books you kind of intend to read, and you realize, hey, this is 800 pages, and
Yeah, but it looks good on a
yeah,
bookshelf,
yeah,
doesn't
exactly.
it? Yeah, to wind this up, the Palestinians, they've always asked this question: is that why us?
Right,
Why us? Okay,
right.
I mean, because it's been pointed out a number of times. I mean, Israel is largely a secular society, but they all believe God gave them the land.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
All righty. The Nicaragua, it's kind of a novelty, but I think it's eye-opening as well. I'm not against it, but I just don't. I think that the aims were more for public relations than anything else. And like I said, little pluckily, Nicaragua's got, it's still got a few things to prove. Okay,
Right.
and
No, I
oh,
think
of course, I heard the rumor yesterday that the Russians were behind it. I don't know.
who knows? Nicaragua has very good relations with Russia, so
Yes.
it wouldn't surprise me because I think Nicaragua. Well, I know it's recognized the independence of Ossetia and or South Ossetia and Abkhazia. I don't know about the Donetsk and Lugansk whether they recognize
I
that
don't
as
think
well.
so. I don't think so.
But so Nicaragua has that, but of course it's still basking in the glory of that case that he won in the mid-80s, which it's a famous case. So they have that, the credibility that comes from having won that case. So, but I kind of agree. I don't think it's going to go legally going to go very far. But it's kind of an interesting sideline.
It put Germany on notice. That's okay with me.
Right.
All right, everybody. This is The Goggle with Peter and George. We're on Local, so please go to thegoggle.locals.com. This is Wednesday. That means tomorrow George has a live stream.
Live stream Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Please join me. Come with comments, criticisms, ideas, suggestions, and opinions. And then think about little Buddy, because Buddy has been raking me over the coals. He said, "What the hell were you doing? I mean, you got nothing in the tip jar. I'm getting tired of all this," he's saying. It's getting harder and harder to talk to Buddy. So if you have a few bob in your pocket, whip him out, dunk him in his tip jar. We're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve on the technology. And above all, I'll catch a break once in a while from Buddy. So remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.